Esther's alternator belt tension at the bias setting. Yeah, the squeaking has come back on the engine, so. And I've got Maude jacked up. Yeah, mullered. Freshly rebuilt Tranex LSD.
Which is ridiculously heavy.
Semi-slick that ruined her half shaft.
Racing gear oil.
Don't have a battery light. Never ending, isn't it? Let's hit the road. Oil leak that I noticed before. One cable tie will be enough. Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes, this is my beautiful girlfriend Kat, and today you join us from the cockpit of Kat's plastic Ford Fiesta that she likes to call Roger. We're just heading over to my other garages where I store Esther, my ST170 powered Mk1 Escort, and Heidi, my hearing aid beige Mk2 Escort moredoor. I just need to pick a few bits up, but while I'm there, I'm going to look at a couple of little things on Esther, and then the plan is to make our way back home, where I'm hoping to put Maude, my other moredoor Mk2 Escort, back together, who has been out of action in the garage at home for a couple of weeks now. So first thing I want to have a look at really quickly is Esther's alternator belt tension. Now it doesn't seem overly tight to me, but this car does make some sort of squeaking sound that sounds like it is the belt, and it certainly gets louder as the engine warms up. And you know, these belts normally shrink ever so slightly when they're warm. Esther's sump is leaking at the front, and you know, oil is getting on that bottom crank pulley, so it might just be the belt slipping from the oil and making a noise. I don't know, but yeah, I just want to loosen this ever so slightly, and then we'll see if that squeaking noise goes away. Now, because the Allen key bolt that I need to undo is so close to the main power lead on the alternator, I'm just going to disconnect the negative terminal from the battery. Because otherwise, when I'm trying to undo this, if I touch that main power lead, you end up getting sparks. I'm trying to crack this off and let it lose a slight bit of tension, not a lot. That should do. So yeah, it's only slightly looser than it was. And nip it back up. So yeah, it really is only slightly looser than it was before. Time will tell if the squeaking is still there. As I say, it only happens when the engine's warm. Definitely don't want to make it too loose, because then the alternator won't be charging the battery, and potentially the water pump wouldn't be spinning properly either, which can make the engine overheat. Right, so next up, I want to have a little look at the bias setting on Maude's brakes. With this being a bias pedal box, you've basically got one master cylinder for the front brakes and one for the rear brakes. The way mine are set up is this is the front brakes and this is the rear brakes, and I have heard that you should really have the rear one on this side, but what I want to do is mess about with the adjustment here. That's just like a threaded bar with a slot in it for a screwdriver, and then there's a nut to lock it off. Now, it's my understanding that if I thread it in this way, it will make this master cylinder work more, which is the front brake. So I'm going to wind it quite a lot in and then just see if the brakes feel any better. So I'm thinking that maybe I've got the bias too far towards the rear, and that might be why the brakes don't feel as sharp as they should be. Looks like the nut is a 17. Just put the screwdriver in the end of the threaded bar. I should be able to just crack the nut off like that. Because I'm winding it in, I'll have to back the nut off quite a bit. I'm going to adjust it quite a lot because I want to see if there's a difference in feel. Nip the nut up. Should Put a handle do for now. And now I'll take her around the block. Definitely feel better. Yeah, it really leans forward now on the braking. Swap places.
Why?
Tell me what you think.
Oh, I'm happy.
Have a go on the brakes. Yeah, so the brakes definitely feel better. They're probably too much towards the front now, and they probably still do need a bleed. I'm going to try and bleed them, you know, the manual way, but with two people helping me so that I can do the front and the rear at the same time. But yeah, I do reckon that part of the issue was the adjustment on the bias. But yeah, the squeaking has come back on the engine. I think I'm just going to spray some brake cleaner on the belt, the alternator pulley and, you know, the other pulleys, and just see if the squeak goes away. Yeah, so it's definitely going away when I spray that bottom crank pulley. And yeah, maybe it's the oil that's getting on that, or maybe I should have tightened the belt rather than loosened it. But I remember when I had the belt too tight before, when I was trying to chase the alternator issue, it squeaked really bad. So, I mean, the battery's still charging. Maybe it is just slipping slightly on that bottom crank pulley because of the oil leak. So as I've already mentioned, I'm planning to put Maude back together today. So I'll continue this video when I'm back with Maude at the garage at home. Hello, right, so a few hours have passed and I'm around the garage at home, and I've got Maude jacked up and I've basically already taken her apart. I've removed the brake drums and the half shafts, and I've been cleaning out her axle. Because I sheared a half shaft on this car, I wanted to make sure that there's no bits of debris inside the axle. So I've been thoroughly cleaning out the middle section of the axle where the diff goes, but I've also been making sure that there's no debris inside the axle tube itself. And basically what I did is, one side at a time, I basically had the axle stand lower than the other side so that it tilts the axle downwards, and then I've basically put a whole can of brake cleaner through from the diff area of the axle, spraying it through this way, and then, you know, all the oil and debris and stuff ran out. Definitely found some metal filings in this side, because this is the side where the half shaft actually sheared, but I did the same the other side as well. But there wasn't actually any metal debris in the other side. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that I've cleaned the axle out as thorough as I can, and I'm pretty much ready to refit the diff. So here is my freshly rebuilt Tranex LSD. You can see the paint stuff that they put on when they're making sure that the crown wheel is aligned. But yeah, this is the side where the half shaft sheared off, and basically this part here got mullered, and that is actually part of this end cap. So I had to get another one of these billet end caps, which are luckily available to purchase separately. Obviously this bit got broken as well when the diff got destroyed, so that's been replaced. It's had a full set of bearings, and it's had a full set of clutch plates for the LSD, and it's obviously been taken apart, everything's been cleaned, it's been put back together, and it's all been set up so it's ready to fit. And I've actually got all the bits that were destroyed to show you. So in here we've got a fresh gasket that the company very kindly supplied, and yeah, this is that end plate that I was on about that got destroyed. You can see that this bit here is completely mullered. I kind of just guessed that that was part of the bearing when I saw it before, but yeah, it is actually part of this, so I had to replace that. Here's the other piece that got damaged that I actually found not connected to the diff when I removed the diff. This is the end of the half shaft that sheared off. Here you can see it's all twisted and yeah, mullered. And these are the old clutch plates for the LSD. A couple of them are broken. That one's broken in half, and this one's got a crack in it. So yeah, they had to be replaced. Now what I have realised is I'm not going to be able to get Maude back on the road today, and I'll explain all about that in a little while. But now I think I'm going to throw Maude's freshly rebuilt LSD into her axle.
I'll just give her one final wipe out for luck. Just got brake cleaner on this microfiber.
Now I'm just going to hang the gasket onto the studs and hopefully this gasket doesn't break.
That seems to have gone on okay without ripping. We've just got to lift the diff on, which is ridiculously heavy. Yeah, if it does it. So that is all 8 nuts on there now. Pull them up with a gun and then I'll torque them up. I forgot to bring my Haynes manual. I found something online saying that these are supposed to be 30 foot-pounds, which seems a bit much to me. Yeah, I think I'll do it by feel. I reckon that'll do. I need to cut the cable ties I've got holding the front of the prop shaft into the gearbox, because this will need to move out about an inch so that the other end will meet the diff. It goes that way. Sweet.
Now obviously, if I was to throw another set of stock half shafts into Maude, I could end up shearing one of those and it could end up ruining my LSD again. If you're a patron, you already know about this, but I've decided to get some uprated shafts for her. Now these are 2-piece shafts. So if I just lay this down, you'll see that the flange and the shaft is actually separate and there's a nut in the middle here that holds them together. And yeah, apparently these are a lot stronger than the standard ones. I've noticed that they sort of taper in. Now they get thinner and thinner towards the spline end, and I've certainly read online that the decent half shafts do that. I don't know if the metal in these ones has been treated different to make them stronger as well, but apparently these are quite capable of being on a race car with 250 horsepower with 10-inch slicks on the back. So yeah, they should be more than enough for Maude. But yeah, I'm hoping that these will be able to handle the abuse, unlike that one was. Now if I had have known that I was going to be uprating the shafts before I sent my diff to be rebuilt, then I could have actually changed the part of the diff where the spline goes in to an 18 spline rather than a 22 spline. But yeah, these ones are 22 spline, which is the same as a stock Escort one. But as I say, the company that sold these to me says that, you know, the 250 horsepower race cars with 10-inch slicks on the back do run these 22 spline and they're fine. So yeah, I'm hoping that these are going to be man enough for all the antics to come in Mexico. Now, the reason I can't get Maude back on the road is because when I went to switch the wheel studs from the old half shafts to fit them to the new half shafts, I found that the studs are a bit cross-threaded. I've got one here, and you can see that these threads down this end are a bit mullered. I don't think it makes sense to put mullered studs into fresh half shafts, so I'm going to wait. I've put 2 of the studs back into this old half shaft so I can throw that back in the axle just to get the car rolling, to get it back in the garage. And I'm going to be getting 8 brand new studs and 8 brand new nuts, and I'm actually going to be meeting up with Steve from Speed Shack to purchase them tomorrow, and I will leave a link to Speed Shack's website in the description. Yeah, Steve at Speed Shack is always really helpful, so happy to give him a plug. But yeah, really happy that the company that supplied these half shafts have put them all together for me. You know, they've pressed the brand new bearings on for me, which is really helpful. I actually phoned them today to double check if they have actually torqued up the centre nut, and they said yeah, they're ready to go. But I will say, Ricky Handley, who owns the Mk1 Escort that he likes to call Yogi, did actually let me know recently that he's got a press, and he said that if I did need to press the bearings onto the new half shafts, I could come round and he would do it for me. So yeah, massive thanks to you if you're watching, mate. But yeah, luckily these shafts are ready to fit, apart from the wheel studs. So yeah, I'm going to throw Maude back together off camera and get her back into the garage. Before I go though, I have now refitted Maude's bodged fuse box. I actually added some more Araldite under there. This pin is now nice and solid and all the electrics work. Maybe one day I'll stop being tight and actually buy a new fuse box for Maude, but at the moment the fuse box is working, so happy days. Anyway, I'm going to continue this video in a couple of days when I'll hopefully be getting Maude back on the road, but for you it'll only be a couple of seconds, so I'll see you then. Hello, so a couple of days have passed and I'm back around the garage, and Maude is in the same state you saw her in the last clip I've jacked her up, removed the wheels, removed the brake drums, and removed our old half shafts. Now yesterday I picked up 8 fresh wheel studs and 8 fresh wheel nuts, and here they are. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I got these from Speed Shack in West Drayton. Massive shout to Steve at Speed Shack if you're watching, mate. And before I pulled Maude out, I just made sure that the studs were the correct size, and I've installed them into one of the half shafts, and I'll just show you how I did it with the other half shaft. So I've put a little bit of grease on the spline just to make it go in easier. Pop that in the hole, and I'm basically going to use one of the old wheel nuts to drive the studs into the hub. Now I'm turning the nut round the wrong way so that the flat bit is going to lean against the hub to pull it in. And it's worth noting that ideally would be better if I put a spacer here and then let the nut lean against that spacer, especially because there will be a slight bit of this stud that pokes through that hasn't got thread on it. And what I've done on the other one is I actually haven't got them fully home. So when I put the wheel on, I'll basically gun the nut on and off a couple of times just to ensure that that pulls through, because if I was to try and pull it all the way through, it might mess up the threads right at the bottom. So yeah, literally just gonna gun this nut on and it will pull the stud into the hub. So yeah, just got to do the same with the other 3 now, and then once I've cleaned the shafts up and put a little bit of grease on this bearing just to help it slip into the axle properly, the half shafts will be ready to install. Put a bit of grease on the spline as well just to make it go into the diff easier. If you've been watching my videos a while, you'll know that I normally just throw sealer on these bearings, but I'm just going to give it a chance dry and see if the O-ring itself can stop the oil coming out. See if that will whack in without destroying the O-ring. I thought the O-ring had come out, but it's just shaved a bit off it. The O-ring doesn't appear to have popped out this way, so hopefully it's still in its groove. Fresh wheel nuts on. As I mentioned earlier, I just want to drive the nuts in and out a good few times, and then I'm going to take the brake drum back off and just make sure those studs are fully home. Actually hasn't worked. I wonder if I can use a socket as a spacer. It'll have to be an 18. Definitely all fully installed now. And I may as well put Maude's actual passenger side wheel back on now. Banded steely with the semi-slick. The semi-slick that ruined her old half shaft. To do that, I'll have to lift the body up a bit. Alright, so that's one side down, one side to go. I'm going to crack on with the driver's side now, off camera. And now I know what I know, I can install those other studs properly before I put the half shaft in the axle. And just like that, the other side is now all back together. Now one thing you might have noticed that I forgot to do on this side was to clean the rear brakes before I put the brake drum back on and the wheel back on. So I decided to take that side back apart and clean the brakes with brake cleaner and then put it back together. So all that's left to do now really is put some diff oil in the axle and then we can take her for a drive. But first I want to have a look at something really quick. Now on these axles there's a breather cap thing here, and I think it might be a good idea just to pop that off and check that it's not blocked, because I'm guessing that much like a crankcase breather on your engine, if that is blocked then the pressure might build up too much in the axle and that might cause diff oil to leak past the seals or the diff gasket. I'm guessing that this should just pop off with a screwdriver. Like that. Covered in underseal. Yeah, I think I'll just give it a clean. Definitely won't hurt it. Definitely some gunk in there, which is the bit that obviously isn't airtight, which allows it to breathe. And when I blow through it, it's not blocked, so it should be alright. Let's get her back on the ground so she's level, and then we can put the diff oil in the axle. Just undo this bung from the axle.
and we're going to chuck in some Castrol B373 racing gear oil for limited slip diffs. Basically just keep pouring it in there until it starts running out of the hole. I think that is it. Squeeze a bit more in just to check. Yeah, there you go, it's running out. And just nip the bung up, doesn't have to be super tight. She is ready to rock and roll.
What I'm going to do now, because it is a fresh diff, is jack the car back up, put it in gear and start it, and then, you know, let the diff spin and let it all get coated with oil, just to prime the diff.
Get me chocks right up against the front wheels, which they are. Handbrake's already off, we'll stick it in second.
Well, that's very strange, we don't have a battery light. But we do have power because the fuel pump's working. We won't worry about that for now.
There we go. Rear wheels are spinning. The diff is obviously spinning in the diff oil.
So yeah, just leave that running for a minute or so. And I suppose I need to investigate what's going on with that battery light before I take it for a spin. Never ending, isn't it? Well, my first port of call was to check the battery light bulb, and it seems all right.
Yes!
Well, as it turns out, it was one of the contacts on the underneath of the fuse box.
And it was one to do with this red fuse. Basically, one of them was a bit green. So yeah, I just cleaned that up, plugged the fuse box back in, and everything works again.
So what that means now is I can finally take Maude out to test out her new LSD. Let's hit the road. First impressions of the freshly rebuilt diff is that it is super tight. In fact, it's reacting like a bit of a welded diff at the moment. It will loosen up over time with normal driving, because then the clutch plates are rubbing against each other. But yeah, I like them nice and aggressive anyway. I've actually got to take a trip over to my other garage to grab something that I need to take with me tomorrow on my adventures. Maude definitely feels slow compared to Esther, because I've been driving Esther quite a bit lately. Still just enough to have fun. And the steering is so heavy compared to Esther as well, because obviously these wheels are wider and heavier. In fact, I think if I put lighter wheels on this car, it would actually make it feel a lot quicker, because apparently the unsprung weight is a big factor in terms of how fast the car is. Oh my god, I've just seen a yellow Mk2 Escort. I'm going to chase it. Look at that, yellow RS2000. Lovely. Diff locks up really well. Love it. Love a freshly rebuilt diff. Oh my days. Pops and bangs.
Well, I made it to my other garage, and there's something I forgot about on this car, and that was the oil leak that I noticed before in here. Now, it definitely looks like there's a lot more oil around here than there is at the back. In fact, the VVT solenoid is literally swimming in a puddle of it. Maybe the VVT solenoid is leaking. I'm guessing there's like a rubber seal on it. Let's investigate that first. Just got one 9mm bolt holding that in. Oh, it's hot. Well, the O-ring on there certainly looks intact, but it does appear that this piece here is able to rotate. I'm not sure if it's supposed to or not. I think I'm going to dig out a spare one and see. Well, I've got a couple of spare VVT solenoids here, and they don't spin. I think I'm just going to throw this one in. It's the cleanest one I've got, because maybe the oil has actually been coming out there where it's spinning. Yeah, I've actually had it before where you go to pull the solenoid out of the engine and this bit gets stuck in, which is a bit annoying. You end up having to take the rocker cover off, obviously, take the front caps off the cams because they're one piece on these, take that out, and yeah, then you're able to extract this bit. So who knows, maybe that would have failed really badly at some point, and then I would have had to go through that hassle. So yeah, I think I'll chuck this one in. O-ring on this one looks good. I think based on what I've found with that VVT solenoid, I don't think I'm going to bother taking everything apart. I actually don't have any brake cleaner here, I've just realised, so I won't be able to clean things up proper anyway. So I think I'll just wipe away this excess oil, put the new VVT solenoid in, and then send it. There's loads of oil around here. If the VVT solenoid's actually knackered, then I might have a little bit more power now than I just did. Who knows? Right, I'm just gonna fit this bit of pipe to my freshly Araldite bodged overflow on Maude's rad. This really isn't the ideal stuff for an overflow pipe, but it's all I've got at the moment that will actually go on there, and it's a nice tight fit, so that'll do for now. By the way, this cap is hissing, so yeah, it's not sealing properly. And if you've been watching my videos, you'll know that this rad that I've got fitted did have a bit of a twisted cap neck, and I tried to straighten it as best I can. So yeah, I need to try and straighten it a bit more, or I'll have to fit the other Escort rad that I've got in my garage at home, which was in slightly less good condition than this one, and I bought it off eBay. It said in the description that it didn't leak, but you know, you always take these things with a pinch of salt. But this one was actually given to me by a subscriber who said that it didn't leak, and it doesn't. But yeah, if I fit the other one, I'll have to get another one of these kits, these cable tie kit things to mount the fan to the other radiator. So yeah, I will order another one of those kits, and then we'll see if I can improve this one. If not, I'll fit the other one. But yeah, I'm just gonna poke this down here, chuck a couple of cable ties on it. Yeah, I think that one cable tie will be enough. I will just have a look in here. Yeah, no puddle of oil in there, so that's good. Yeah, so I can do a better job of cleaning this up another day. Anyway, I'm going to grab what I need to from here, which is all to do with my trip tomorrow, well, you'll see in a future video, and then I'm going to make my way back home.
It does feel a bit quicker now. It might be psychological, but yeah, maybe that VVT solenoid being broken was, you know, nicking a few horsepower off me. The next video you're going to see is what I get up to tomorrow, which is going to involve picking up some new parts for Esther, my Mk1 Escort, and we're probably going to be going to check out the car meet. Chances are I probably won't actually reveal what those parts are in the next video, but if you're a Patreon, then you'll probably already know what those bits are. Yeah, she definitely feels quicker, definitely. Not by much, she's still nowhere near as quick as Esther, but I'm just so glad to have her back, and I'm really glad that I decided to upgrade those half shafts. It's going to mean that she's going to be way more future proof. I'm going going to stop off on the way home and give Maude a much needed wash. I'm probably not going to be using her now until I get back from Ireland. I'm actually leaving to go to Ireland in 3 days, and the day after tomorrow I'm going to Santa Pod. So yeah, plenty of content coming up. I'm going to be super busy, but that's what my life's all about now. Now that I don't have a day job, I need to stay busy with this, and I hope you're all going to enjoy the content that's coming up. Now this video has been way longer than I intended, so I'm going to end it here. If you did think it was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media. I'll also leave a link to my website down there and a link to my Patreon for any of you guys that want to jump on that. And as always, I'll leave my email address in the description for anyone who wants to get in touch with me. But other than that, until next time, thanks for watching.
No oil leak, so it was the VVT solenoid. Sweet.